What if the biggest obstacle between you and a peaceful, joyful life is the constant noise inside your own head? You think 60,000 thoughts a day. Most of them are repetitive. Most of them are negative. And almost all of them are unnecessary. You're not broken. You're just wired for overthinking in a world that never stops. Today, you're going to learn how to rewire your mind so you can finally think less and live more. Welcome to Rewire Your Mind. Think less, live more. Let's begin. Welcome to the Infinite Library. You are here because you feel it. The mental exhaustion, the endless loop of thoughts, the inability to simply be present. This audiobook is not about positive thinking. It is about rewiring the very architecture of your mind so that peace, clarity, and joy become your default state. Over the next 10 chapters, we will explore why your mind thinks so much, how to interrupt the overthinking cycle, and most importantly, how to create new neural pathways that allow you to think less and live more fully. Take a deep breath with me right now. Inhale slowly. Exhale even slower. That small moment of relief you just felt, that is the beginning of rewiring. You are ready. Let's begin Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The Overthinking Epidemic. Why your mind never stops. Your mind is not broken. It is simply running an outdated survival program designed for a very different world. In this chapter, you will discover why modern humans overthink so much and how this constant mental noise became the default setting for millions of people. You will clearly see the real hidden cost of overthinking on your health, happiness, relationships, and potential. By the end of this chapter, you will finally understand why your mind refuses to rest and why real change is now possible. Stay with me. Understanding the problem is the first powerful step toward rewiring your mind. The average person experiences around 60,000 thoughts every single day. 90% of those thoughts are the same ones they had yesterday, and the majority of them are negative, repetitive, and completely unnecessary. This is not normal human thinking. This is a modern epidemic of overthinking, a silent thief that steals your peace, your presence, and your ability to truly live. Your mind was never meant to run like this. It was designed for survival in a dangerous ancient world, not for the constant stimulation and information overload of today. In this opening chapter, we are going to pull back the curtain and look honestly at what is really happening inside your head, without judgment, only with understanding. Because the moment you truly see the machinery behind overthinking, you gain the power to rewire it. Overthinking is not just thinking too much. It is a compulsive, automatic pattern that keeps your mind trapped in loops of worry, regret, planning, and self-criticism. In ancient times, this hypervigilant mind kept our ancestors alive by constantly scanning for threats. Today, the same mechanism scans for threats in emails, social media likes, conversations, future possibilities, and past mistakes. The result is chronic mental exhaustion, even when your body is resting. You lie awake at night replaying conversations. You scroll endlessly while your mind races with what-if scenarios. You make simple decisions feel impossibly complicated. You feel tired all the time, yet you can't switch off. This is not laziness or weakness. This is your brain doing exactly what was programmed to do, except the programming is now completely mismatched with the world we live in. Meet Alex. Alex is a 34-year-old software engineer who appears successful on the outside. He has a good job, a nice apartment, and friends who admire his intelligence. But every night, Alex lies in bed for hours with his mind racing. He replays every meeting from the day, worries about what his boss really thinks of him, and creates elaborate disaster scenarios about losing his job or disappointing his family. By morning, he feels completely drained before the day has even begun. Alex isn't lazy or negative by nature. His mind is simply stuck in an overactive survival loop that no longer serves him. Like millions of others, he is trapped in the overthinking epidemic without knowing how to escape. The overthinking epidemic. The evolutionary roots of overthinking, why the human brain developed a bias toward negative and repetitive thinking as a survival advantage. The default mode network, DMN. The scientific explanation of the brain network that activates during mind-wandering and self-referential thinking, and why it has become overactive in modern life. The hidden costs of a noisy mind. Physical health impact, elevated cortisol, poor sleep, weakened immune system, emotional and mental health consequences, anxiety, depression, burnout, damage to relationships and presence loss opportunities, and reduced creativity. How modern life supercharges overthinking the role of smartphones, social media, 24-hour news, and constant productivity pressure in keeping the mind in a permanent state of alertness. Why willpower alone fails a neurological reason that simply trying to stop thinking makes the problem worse. The good news: your brain can be rewired. Introduction to neuroplasticity and the core promise of this audiobook. You can create new mental pathways that allow you to think less and live more. Chapter 2. Understanding the mind's operating system. Your mind is running automatic programs you never consciously chose. In this chapter, you will discover the 3 main operating systems that control your thinking and how to identify which one is currently running your life. You will learn why these systems were useful in the past, but are now creating unnecessary suffering. By the end, you will clearly see the mental software that needs to be upgraded so you can finally think less and live more. Stay with me. Once you understand the code, you gain the power to rewrite it. Your mind is not a single unified entity. It is a collection of powerful operating systems that run mostly on autopilot. These systems were designed for survival in a dangerous world thousands of years ago. Today, they continue running the background, creating anxiety, rumination, and mental noise even when there is no real threat. The good news? You can upgrade these operating systems. You can move from an outdated survival program to a new, calmer, more present way of thinking. This chapter is your user manual for the mind. We're going to open the hood and look at exactly how your mental software works, so you can finally take control. Most people believe they are in control of their thoughts. The truth is far more humbling. Your mind is running 3 powerful, mostly unconscious operating systems. The survival system, always scanning for danger. The story system, creating narratives about who you are and what everything means. The comparison system, constantly measuring you against others and past versions of yourself. These systems were incredibly useful when humans lived in tribes and faced real physical threats every day. In our modern world of constant information, social media, and abstract worries, they have become overactive and exhausting. You feel tired even when you haven't done anything physically demanding. You replay conversations and worry about things that haven't happened yet. You compare your behind-the-scenes life to everyone else's highlight reel. This is not because you're flawed. It is because you are still running ancient mental software in a completely different world. Meet Sarah. Sarah is a 29-year-old marketing manager who appears calm and successful to others. Inside, her mind is constantly running. She wakes up thinking about everything she needs to do that day. During meetings, she worries about whether she sounded intelligent enough. At night, she replays conversations and creates stories about what people really think of her. Sarah wasn't lazy or negative by nature. She was simply letting her survival system, story system, and comparison system run on full power without any conscious oversight. Once she learned to recognize these 3 operating systems, she finally understood why her mind never rested and how she could begin to upgrade them. Understanding the mind's operating system, the survival system, the ancient alarm, how the amygdala and threat detection circuitry still dominate modern thinking, why the brain defaults to negative bias, and how this creates chronic low-level anxiety. The story system, the narrative machine, the brain's powerful tendency to create meaning and identity through stories. How rumination and self-referential thinking keep us trapped in the past and future. The comparison system, the social ranking engine, why we constantly measure ourselves against others, and how social media has supercharged this ancient mechanism. How these 3 systems interact, the dangerous feedback loops they create together, and why they feel so difficult to turn off. The cost of running outdated software, detailed exploration of the impact on sleep, focus, creativity, relationships, and overall life satisfaction. The promise of mental rewiring, introduction to neuroplasticity, and how we can consciously upgrade these operating systems through awareness and deliberate practice. Practical self-diagnosis guided exercises to help you identify which operating system is dominating your thoughts at any given moment. Chapter 3. The cost of a noisy mind. How overthinking steals your life. You now understand why your mind overthink and how its automatic operating systems keep it running nonstop. In this chapter, you will see the true, measurable cost of a noisy mind, how overthinking quietly destroys your health, relationships, focus, happiness, and future. You will discover why the damage is far greater than you realize, and why rewiring is no longer optional. Stay with me. Facing the real cost is the moment real change begins. Overthinking doesn't just waste time. It quietly steals your life. Every hour spent lost in rumination is an hour you will never get back. Every night of racing thoughts is a night of restorative sleep you lose forever. Every decision delayed by overanalysis is an opportunity that quietly slips away. Most people know overthinking feels bad. Very few understand how devastatingly expensive it actually is. To their body, their relationships, their career, and their soul. This chapter is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up. Because the moment you see the true cost with clear eyes, you will never again accept a noisy mind as normal. A noisy mind is not harmless background noise. It is an active force that slowly erodes every area of your life. Physically, it floods your body with stress hormones that damage your heart, weaken your immune system, and disrupt your sleep for years. Emotionally, it keeps you trapped in cycles of anxiety, guilt, and dissatisfaction that no achievement can fix. Relationally, it pulls you out of the present moment, so you are never truly with the people you love. Creatively and professionally, it paralyzes decision-making and kills the flow state where real excellence happens. You feel tired all the time, yet you have done nothing physically demanding. You feel disconnected from your loved ones even when you are in the same room. You feel stuck in life even when everything on paper looks fine. This is a hidden cost of a noisy mind, and it is far higher than most people are willing to admit. Meet Priya. Priya, 38, was a successful project manager with a loving family and a comfortable life. On the outside, everything looked perfect. Inside, her mind never stopped. She replayed every meeting, worried about her children's future, second-guessed every decision, and lay awake until 3 a.m. running worst-case scenarios. Her health began to decline, high blood pressure, constant fatigue, and frequent illnesses. Her marriage suffered because she was mentally absent even during dinner. Her creativity at work dried up because she couldn't stop overanalyzing every idea. Priya wasn't lazy or ungrateful. She was simply paying the enormous hidden cost of a noisy mind. When she finally understood the full price she was paying, she became willing to do whatever it took to rewire. The cost of a noisy mind, the physical toll, how chronic overthinking elevates cortisol and damages every major organ system, the link between rumination and inflammation, heart disease, and weakened immunity, why overthinkers age faster at a cellular level, the emotional and mental toll, how a noisy mind creates and maintains anxiety, depression, and burnout, the self-reinforcing loop of negative bias and rumination, loss of joy, gratitude, and simple pleasure in everyday life, the relational toll, why overthinking makes true presence almost impossible, the invisible distance it creates with partners, children, and friends, how it turns love into worry and connection into mental rehearsal, the professional and creative toll, decision paralysis and lost opportunities, the death of flow state, and deep work, how overthinking kills innovation and career growth, the spiritual and existential toll, the quiet loss of meaning and aliveness, living in the past or future instead of the only moment that actually exists, the slow erosion of your true self. The cumulative lifetime caused detailed calculations and research showing how many years of life, health, and happiness are lost to chronic overthinking. Why most people never see the full cost, the subtle, gradual nature of the damage, makes it easy to normalize until it's too late. The turning point, the moment you truly see the cost, is the moment you become ready to rewire. This chapter ends with a powerful invitation to begin the upgrade. Chapter 4, the first interruption, breaking the thought loop. You now understand why your mind overthinks and the enormous hidden cost it is stealing from your life. In this chapter, you will move from understanding to action. You will learn the exact first interruption techniques that break the thought loop in real time before it takes over your day or your night. These are simple, science-backed tools you can use the moment you notice the spiral beginning. By the end, You will have immediate ways to stop overthinking in its tracks and create the first real space for peace. Stay with me. This is where rewiring your mind finally begins. Here is the most important truth in this entire audiobook. You cannot outthink overthinking. You can only interrupt it. The moment you stop trying to solve every thought and start interrupting the pattern itself, everything changes. Most people stay trapped because they believe they must think their way out of thinking. That is like trying to dig your way out of a hole using the same shovel that dug the hole. This chapter gives you the actual interrupters, the practical, neuroscience-backed techniques that create an immediate gap between the trigger thought and your automatic reaction. These are not fluffy affirmations. These are the first real tools that let you think less and live more. Starting today, the reason overthinking feels impossible to stop is simple. You've been trained to engage with every thought. A worrying thought appears, you analyze it. A regret appears, you replay it. A what if appears, you try to solve it. This engagement is exactly what keeps the loop alive. Your brain learns, when I think about this, I get a tiny hit of temporary relief or control. So it keeps offering more thoughts. To break free, you must learn a completely new response. Interruption. Interruption is not suppression. It is not positive thinking. It is a deliberate pause that creates space between the trigger and your reaction. In that space, real rewiring becomes possible. Meet Priya. Priya, 31, was a teacher who used to spend every evening and night trapped in overthinking about her students, her lesson plans, and whether she was doing enough. She would lie awake until 2 a.m. replaying the day in her head. After learning the interruption tools in this chapter, she started using a simple 30-second technique the moment she noticed the spiral beginning. Within 2 weeks, her sleepless nights dropped from 7 per week to 1. Her colleagues noticed she seemed calmer and more present in class. She told me, "For the first time in years, my mind finally feels like it belongs to me again." Priya didn't think her way out. She interrupted her way out. Practical tools to break the thought loop. The 5 most effective interruption tools, backed by neuroscience. Tool 1. The 5-second rule, Mel Robbins technique. The moment you notice an overthinking thought, count backwards from 5 to 1 out loud or in your head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This activates your prefrontal cortex and interrupts the automatic default mode network loop. Clinical studies show the simple countdown breaks rumination momentum in under 5 seconds. Tool 2. Thought labeling. Instead of engaging with the thought, simply label it. That's an overthinking thought. That's my amygdala talking. That's just rumination. Labeling creates immediate psychological distance. UCLA fMRI research shows that naming the pattern reduces amygdala activity by up to 50%. Tool 3. The body scan interruption. Overthinking lives in the mind. Bring attention to the body for 30 to 60 seconds. Feel your feet on the floor, the temperature of your hands, the sensation of breathing. This pulls you out of the default mode network and into the present moment sensory network. Tool 4. Schedule worry time. Set aside one specific 15-minute window each day called worry time. Anytime an overthinking thought appears outside that window, gently say, "I'll think about this at 7 p.m. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows this technique reduces daily rumination by 40 to 60% within 2 weeks. Tool 5. The what would I tell friend. Reframe when you catch yourself spiraling. Ask, if my best friend was thinking this way, what would I tell them? This activates self-compassion and immediately weakens the shame that fuels overthinking. How to combine these tools into a daily practice. The secret is not using one tool perfectly. It is using any tool the moment you notice the spiral beginning. Consistency beats intensity. Even 30 seconds of interruption, repeated hundreds of times, begins to rewire your brain. Common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Expecting instant silence. The mind will test you, judging yourself when you forget to interrupt, trying to use willpower instead of gentle redirection. The turning point, you now have the interrupters. The moment you choose to use them instead of engaging with the thoughts, you step out of the role of prisoner and into the role of guardian of your own mind. Chapter 5. Rewiring through awareness. Becoming the observer of your thoughts. You now know why your mind overthinks, the enormous cost it exacts, and the first practical tools to interrupt the loop in real time. In this chapter, you will take the next crucial step in rewiring, learning how to become the observer of your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. You will discover the transformative power of awareness and how simply watching your thoughts, without judgment or engagement, begins to create new neural pathways of peace and presence. By the end, you will have a foundational skill that turns interruption into lasting rewiring. Stay with me. This is where you stop being the prisoner of your mind and become its gentle guardian. Here is the most liberating truth in this entire audiobook. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that notices the thoughts. The moment you stop identifying with every thought that arises and instead become the calm observer, the endless loop begins to lose its power. Most people live as slaves to their thinking mind. They believe, I am my thoughts. This single mistaken identity is what keeps overthinking alive. In this chapter, you will learn how to shift from being lost inside the storm of thoughts to standing calmly on the shore watching the storm pass. This shift is not just a nice idea. It is the actual neurological rewiring that allows you to think less and live more. Even after learning interruption tools, many people still feel stuck because they continue to identify with every thought that appears. They interrupt the loop for a moment, but then immediately jump back in and start engaging again. They treat thoughts as me instead of just thoughts passing through. This identification is the hidden glue that keeps the noisy mind running. As long as you believe, I am the thinker, you will keep feeding the machine. Awareness is a gentle but powerful solvent that dissolves this identification. When you learn to watch your thoughts the same way you watch clouds drifting across the sky, something profound begins to happen inside your brain. Meet Michael. Michael, 42, was a high-achieving lawyer who had mastered the interruption tools from the previous chapter. He could stop a spiral in the moment, but within minutes the same thoughts would pull him back in. He still felt exhausted and mentally trapped. When he began practicing the awareness techniques you will learn in this chapter, everything changed. He started treating his thoughts like passing traffic instead of getting into every car that drove by. Within a few weeks, the constant mental chatter quieted down dramatically. He told me, for the first time in my life, there is space in my mind. I'm not just interrupting the noise. I'm actually living beyond it. Michael didn't just interrupt his thoughts. He learned to observe them, and that observation rewired his mind. Rewiring through awareness. Full 30,000-word expansion follows the same detailed, compassionate, and science-backed style. The science of awareness and neuroplasticity, how observing your thoughts without engagement literally changes brain structure, strengthening the prefrontal cortex and quieting the default mode network. The observer self versus the thinking self, clear explanation of the two modes of consciousness and how to shift between them at will. Practical awareness practices, step by step. The 60-second observer technique, thought watching meditation, daily 10-minute practice. Labeling plus observing combine the clouds and sky, visualization body plus breath anchoring for instant awareness. How to handle the mind's resistance, why the thinking mind fights awareness, and exact ways to work with, not against, that resistance. Common pitfalls and how to overcome them. Getting frustrated when thoughts keep coming, turning awareness into another form of overthinking, expecting permanent silence instead of gentle observation. The deeper transformation, what happens neurologically and emotionally when awareness becomes your new default state. Reduce anxiety, increase emotional regulation, natural presence, and profound sense of inner freedom. Daily integration, how to weave awareness practices into ordinary moments, commuting, eating, conversations, bedtime. So rewiring happens naturally throughout your day. Chapter 6. The Power of Mental Models for Simpler Thinking. You now know how to interrupt overthinking and how to become the calm observer of your thoughts. In this chapter, you will discover one of the most powerful ways to rewire your mind for good, using mental models. These simple frameworks allow you to think less, but with far greater clarity, wisdom, and effectiveness. You will learn the exact mental models that replace endless overthinking with sharp, decisive, and peaceful thinking. By the end, you will have practical tools that let you cut through mental noise and live more fully. Stay with me. This is where thinking less becomes thinking better. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your life. Most people try to solve problems by thinking harder and longer. The truly wise ones solve problems by thinking better, with fewer, clearer, more powerful thoughts. Mental models are the secret. They are simple, proven frameworks that compress years of wisdom into easy-to-use tools. Instead of getting lost in endless analysis, you apply the right model and move forward with confidence. This chapter is your personal toolkit of the most effective mental models for everyday life. Once explaining the problem without mental models, your mind defaults to chaotic, repetitive, and emotional thinking. You overanalyze every decision. You get stuck in what-if loops. You compare yourself endlessly. You feel overwhelmed even when the problem is simple. Mental models cut through all of that. They give your brain a structured shortcut, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. They replace volume of thought with quality of thought. The people who seem calm and decisive are not thinking less because they're lazy. They're thinking less because they have better tools. This chapter gives you those tools. Meet David. David, 45, was a successful entrepreneur who spent hours every day overthinking every business decision. He would lie awake at night running endless scenarios. After learning the mental models in this chapter, he started applying just one or two models to every major decision. Within weeks, his stress dropped dramatically. Decisions that used to take days now took minutes. His team noticed he was calmer and more focused. David didn't stop thinking. He simply started thinking with much better frameworks. He finally began to think less and live more. The power of mental models for simpler thinking. What mental models actually are, and why they work, the neuroscience behind why structured thinking reduces cognitive load and quiets the default mode network. The 8 most transformative mental models for everyday life. First principles thinking. Break problems down to fundamental synversion. Think backward from what you want to avoid, circle competence. Stay within what you truly understand, second-order thinking. Consider long-term consequences, Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually correct, Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time available, the 80-20 rule, Pareto principle. 20% of efforts create 80% of results, Stoic dichotomy of control. Focus only on what you can control. How to apply each model step-by-step, detailed. Real-life examples and guided practice for every model. Building your personal mental model toolkit, how to choose, combine, and remember the models that serve your life best. Common mistakes when using mental models. Over-relying on one model, using them as rigid rules instead of flexible tools, forgetting to update your models as life changes. The long-term rewiring effect, how consistent use of mental models literally changes your brain's default pathways so that simpler, clearer thinking becomes automatic. Daily integration practices, simple ways to use mental models in conversations, decisions, journaling, and even quiet moments. Chapter 7. From overthinking to deep presence. Training your mind to live in the now. You now have the tools to interrupt overthinking, observe your thoughts, and use powerful mental models for clearer thinking. In this chapter, you will learn how to move from managing thoughts to living in deep presence, the natural state where overthinking simply fades away. You will discover practical ways to train your mind to rest in the present moment, so that peace and aliveness become your default way of being. By the end, you will know how to shift from a noisy mind to a quiet, fully alive presence. Stay with me. This is where thinking less finally turns into living more. Presence is the opposite of overthinking. When your mind is fully here, right now, there is no room for rumination about the past or anxiety about the future. Presence is not something you have to force. It is something you return to again and again until it becomes your natural home. Most people believe they have to stop thinking completely to feel present. That is not true. You simply learn to stop being lost in thinking. You learn to anchor yourself in the only moment that actually exists. This one, this chapter, is your training ground for presence. It gives you the exact practices that rewire your brain from constant mental time travel to peaceful, grounded awareness. Even after interrupting loops and using mental models, many people still feel pulled back into overthinking because they have not yet built the habit of presence. They have a moment of clarity, then quickly drift back into the past or future. They know what they should do, but they don't know how to stay here. The mind loves to time travel. It feels safer in the past where it can analyze or the future where it can plan. The present moment feels too simple, too exposed, too real. Without deliberate training in presence, all the previous tools remain temporary fixes. Presence is the anchor that makes rewiring permanent. Meet Elena. Elena, 37, had used the interruption tools and mental models for several months. She could stop spirals and make better decisions, but she still felt mentally restless most of the day. She was physically present with her family, but mentally somewhere else, planning, worrying, replaying. When she began the presence practices you will learn in this chapter, something profound shifted. She started feeling fully alive during ordinary moments, a conversation with her child, a walk in the park, even washing dishes. The constant background noise quieted. She told me, "I didn't realize how much of my life I was missing until I learned to actually be here." Elena didn't just manage overthinking. She moved into deep presence. The neuroscience of presence, how presence deactivates the default mode network and activates the present moment sensory networks in the brain. The three anchors of presence. Breath anchor, the simplest and most powerful return point body anchor. Feeling sensations to pull attention out of the mind sensory anchor. Using sight, sound, touch, and smell to ground yourself. Daily presence training practices. The 60-second presence reset, anytime, anywhere. The 10-minute morning presence ritual presence during everyday activities. Eating, walking, listening. The name entertainment presence technique evening presence wind down for better sleep. How to handle the mind's resistance to presence, why the thinking mind fights stillness, and exactly how to work with, not against, that resistance. Common pitfalls and how to overcome them. Getting frustrated when the mind wanders, turning presence practice into another performance, expecting permanent silence instead of gentle returning. The beautiful ripple effects of presence. Deeper relationships, natural creativity, and flow-reduce anxiety, and increased joy, a profound sense of aliveness and gratitude in ordinary moments. Making presence your new default long-term integration strategy so that thinking less, living more becomes who you are, not just something you practice. Chapter 8. Building new neural pathways. Creating the mind you want to live with. You now know how to interrupt overthinking. Observe your thoughts. Use mental models, and live in deep presence. In this chapter, you will learn how to turn all of that into permanent change by actively building new neural pathways in your brain. You will discover the science of neuroplasticity and the exact daily practices that rewire your mind so that calm, clear, and present thinking becomes your new automatic default. By the end, you will have a complete blueprint for creating the quieter, freer mind you truly want to live with. Stay with me. This is where temporary relief becomes lasting transformation. Your brain is not fixed. It is constantly changing. Every thought you repeat, every habit you practice, every moment of presence you choose is literally reshaping the physical structure of your brain. This is neuroplasticity, your brain's built-in ability to rewire itself. Most people believe they are stuck with an overactive, noisy mind. That is simply not true. With the right consistent practices, you can weaken the old pathways of overthinking and strengthen brand new pathways of peace, clarity, and presence. This chapter is your practical guide to doing exactly that. It turns everything you have learned so far into a repeatable system for building the mind you want to live with for the rest of your life. Even after learning powerful tools and experiencing moment of presence, many people still slide back into old patterns. Why? Because they treated rewiring as a temporary project instead of building new, stronger neural highways. The old pathways of overthinking are like well-paved superhighways, fast, familiar, and easy to use. The new pathways of calm presence are like narrow dirt trails. They exist, but they are weak and overgrown. Without deliberate, repeated practice, the brain naturally defaults back to the old superhighways. True freedom comes when you stop fighting the old paths and start paving beautiful new ones. Meet James. James, 47, had tried meditation apps, therapy, and supplement for years with only temporary relief. After working through the previous chapters, he experienced real moments of peace. But the old overthinking patterns kept creeping back during stressful weeks. When he committed to the neural pathway building practices in this chapter, doing them every single day for 90 days without exception, everything changed. By day 60, His wife noticed he was more present and less reactive. By day 90, he slept through the night for the first time in years. The thoughts still came, but they no longer had the power to pull him in. James didn't just manage overthinking. He built an entirely new mind, building new neural pathways. The science of neuroplasticity, how your brain actually changes, detailed explanation of synaptic strengthening, myelin growth, and how repeated behaviors literally reshape neural networks. The 4 stages of rewiring. Awareness, noticing the old pattern. Interruption, breaking the loop. Replacement, installing the new behavior. Repetition, making the new pathway automatic. Daily practices that build new pathways. The 10-minute neural rewiring ritual, morning and evening. The one thought at a time, training habit stacking with presence anchors. The 21-day neuroplasticity challenge with exact day-by-day guidance, using mental models plus presence together for compound effect. How to strengthen new pathways and weaken old ones. The use it or lose it principle-deliberate environmental design to support the new mind tracking progress without turning it into overthinking. Common obstacles during the rewiring process. The 2 steps forward, 1 step back, phase plateaus, and how to push through them self-judgment when old patterns return. What a fully rewired mind actually feels like long-term outcomes. Natural calm, effortless presence, sharper focus, deeper joy, and a profound sense of freedom. Making rewiring a lifelong skill how to maintain and continue strengthening your new neural pathways for years to come. Chapter 9. Living the think less, live more lifestyle. Making it your new normal. You now know how to interrupt overthinking, observe your thoughts, use mental models, cultivate presence, and actively build new neural pathways. In this chapter, you will learn how to turn all that knowledge into a sustainable lifestyle, so that think less, live more becomes your natural way of being, not just something you practice. You will discover daily rhythms, long-term habits, and simple systems that keep your rewired mind strong through all seasons of life. By the end, you'll have a complete blueprint for living lighter, freer, and more fully every single day. Stay with me. This is where rewiring becomes who you are. Rewiring your mind is not a one-time project. It is a way of life. The people who truly think less and live more are not those who had one big breakthrough moment. They are the ones who turn the practices into quiet, consistent rhythms that run in the background of their everyday life. This chapter is your bridge from "I am working on this" to "This is simply how I live now." You will learn how to weave awareness, mental models, presence, and new neural pathways into your mornings, your work, your relationships, and your quiet moments, so that peace and clarity become your default setting. Many people experience beautiful moments of clarity after learning these tools, only to slowly slide back into old patterns when life gets busy or stressful. They know what to do, but they haven't built a lifestyle that supports the new mind. Without intentional daily rhythms and supportive systems, the old superhighways of overthinking slowly regain strength. A rewired mind needs maintenance, not because it's fragile, but because life is full of triggers and distractions. This chapter shows you exactly how to design a lifestyle that protects and strengthens your new neural pathways, so the change becomes permanent. Meet Laura. Laura, 39, had worked through all the previous chapters and felt real progress. She could interrupt spirals, observe her thoughts, and use mental models effectively, but during busy work weeks or family stress, she would slip back into overthinking. When she created the simple lifestyle systems you will learn in this chapter, a morning presence ritual, a daily model check-in, and evening wind-down practices, everything stabilized. The peace she had tasted became her new normal. Her husband noticed she was more present and joyful. Laura no longer had to try to think less. Thinking less and living more had become her natural way of life. Living the think less, live more lifestyle. Designing your daily rhythm for a quieter mind. Morning presence ritual, 10 to 15 minutes. Midday reset practices, evening wind-down system for deep rest. Building supportive environments, how to design your physical space, digital habits, and relationships to reinforce the new neural pathways instead of triggering the old ones. The weekly review system, a gentle 20-minute Sunday practice to celebrate progress, release any lingering attachments, and set your mind up for the week ahead. handling setbacks and life's inevitable triggers, why old patterns sometimes return, and the exact compassionate way to return to your new lifestyle without self-judgment. Long-term maintenance practices, seasonal deep rewiring sessions, accountability, and community support tracking progress in a way that feels encouraging rather than obsessive. What to think less, live more lifestyle actually looks like detailed descriptions of how your days, relationships, work, and inner world change after 3 months, 6 months, and 1+ years of living this way. The deeper gift of this lifestyle: increased creativity, deeper connections, natural joy, effortless decision-making, and profound sense of freedom and aliveness. Making it sustainable for the rest of your life: how to evolve the practices as life changes while keeping the core of think less, live more intact. Chapter 10, The Liberated Mind, embracing your new life of thinking less and living more. You have now walked a complete journey of rewiring your mind, from understanding the overthinking epidemic, through interruption, awareness, mental models, presence, and building new neural pathways, all the way to living the think less, live more lifestyle. In this final chapter, you will step fully into the liberated mind, the peaceful, clear, and joyful way of being that becomes possible when overthinking no longer runs your life. You will see what daily life actually feels like after the rewiring is complete, and how to protect and enjoy this new freedom for the rest of your days. This is where the work becomes who you are. Stay with me until the end. This is the beginning of your liberated life. Imagine waking up each morning with a quiet, spacious mind. No racing thoughts. Number 3 a.m. worry spirals. No constant mental rehearsal of every possible future. Instead, there's presence. There's ease. There's a gentle confidence that you can handle whatever life brings without needing to overthink every detail. This is not fantasy. This is the natural state of a liberated mind. You have done the deep work. You have interrupted the loops, observed your thoughts, applied mental models, cultivated presence, and built new neural pathways. Now you get to live the reward. In this final chapter, we move from practice to embodiment. We explore what your days, relationships, work, and inner world look like when think less, live more is no longer something you do. It is simply who you are. Many people who finish a book or course on rewiring still struggle to maintain the gains. They have good weeks, then suddenly fall back into old patterns during stress or change. They wonder, why does the peace keep slipping away? The reason is simple. They treated the rewiring as a temporary project instead of embracing it as a permanent identity shift. A liberated mind is not a technique you use when you feel anxious. It is a new way of being, a new operating system where calm, presence, and clarity are the default. Without consciously stepping into and protecting this new identity, the old pathways can quietly regain strength. This chapter is your bridge from "I am working on this" to "This is who I am now." Meet Marcus. Marcus, 45, had been a severe overthinker for over 20 years. After applying everything from the previous chapters, interruption tools, awareness, mental models, presence practices, and daily pathway building, he experienced profound change. The real test came during a major life crisis. His company downsized, and he lost his job. In the past, this would have triggered months of rumination, anxiety, and sleepless nights. This time, something was different. The thoughts still came, but they no longer consumed him. He used his interruption tools immediately. He returned to presence and mental models instead of spiraling. He responded from his new liberated identity. Within weeks, he found a better opportunity and felt stronger than before the setback. Marcus didn't just manage overthinking. He had become someone who lives with a liberated mind, even in difficult times. The liberated mind. What daily life actually looks like in the liberated mind. Morning freedom. Waking up with quiet gratitude instead of worried decision-making without paralysis. Gathering information, applying models, then acting present relationships. Showing up fully for people you love, emotional resilience. Meeting difficult feelings with self-compassion instead of rumination, creative and purposeful flow. Mental energy freed up for what truly matters, a deep underlying peace that stays with you even when life is busy or challenging. How to protect and nurture the liberated mind. daily maintenance rhythms that take only minutes, regular identity check-ins, and gentle course correction environment design and relationship choices that support the new mind compassionate handling of setbacks. They are normal and temporary. The long-term gifts of rewired life improve physical health, deeper connections, natural joy, increased creativity, effortless clarity, and profound sense of aliveness and freedom. Living as a liberated self, you become someone who responds instead of reacts, chooses peace over being right, trusts the timing of life, lives fully in the present while still moving toward meaningful goals. The final truth: you were never meant to live trapped in your own mind. You were meant to live with clarity, presence, and peace. The overthinking was never the real you. It was an outdated survival strategy that has now served its purpose. You have reclaimed your mind. You have now explored why your mind overthinks, the enormous hidden cost it was stealing from your life, and the complete system to interrupt the loops. Observe your thoughts, use powerful mental models, cultivate deep presence, and build brand new neural pathways. The most important truth I want you to carry with you is this: you are not your thoughts. You are the calm awareness behind them. You now have the tools, the practices, and the new operating system to finally think less and live more, fully, peacefully, and freely. Every time the old patterns try to return, gently come back to practices you've learned. Be patient and kind with yourself. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen with consistent, compassionate practice. If this audiobook gave you even one moment of relief, one insight that shifted something inside you, or one tool you're excited to use, please do these 3 things for me. Hit the like button. It really helps this channel reach more people who need this wisdom. Leave a comment below with your biggest takeaway. Tell me, which chapter or practice resonated with you most? Subscribe to the Infinite Library and turn on the notification bell so you never miss future deep audiobook summaries and life-changing wisdom.